Steph Curry breaks a record. COVID is breaking the league, and trade season is upon us. I'm going to talk about it right now on the Locked On NBA podcast.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there. Happy Wednesday. Welcome back to the Locked On NBA podcast. Thank you for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. We are available everywhere podcasts exist, free Monday through Friday, and also on YouTube. Hello, YouTube viewers. I'm John Karalis. You can find me on Twitter at John_Karalis, not this little thing that I still haven't changed. John_Karalis on Twitter. I'm host of the Locked On Celtics podcast.
And I'm Jake Madison, host of the Locked On Pelicans podcast. You can find me on Twitter at Nola Jake. Also, we're rocking a strong beard game today.
Like that? It's the winter look. I've decided to just let it go.
It looks pretty good.
It really, my beard just likes to grow out. You've always had a very strong, thick beard. Like looks like you use many oils and conditioners.
I don't. I even trimmed it down yesterday too.
Yeah, I've just kind of let the wild Greekness of my beard go nuts. I look like a fisherman now. And yeah, it's just fun. I keep trying to tamp it down, and it just wants to, like a chia pet, just grow out. So I'm just going to let it do what it's going to do. It's getting cold in New England, so we're going to whatever. So today's episode is brought to you by Truebill. Truebill is a new app that saves you money by helping you identify and stop paying for the subscriptions you do not want or need, and can even negotiate better deals for those that you want to keep. Jake, have you heard of this guy, Steph Curry? He's a pretty good shooter, young fella. Can really knock it in. He broke a record. He broke a record. Have you been following?
I heard about that. It's right. Like I think everyone, including him, is
that this was coming up. But apparently, there's a record that was broken tonight in New York. Steph Curry hit his 2,974th three-pointer, and after the game said, "I never wanted to call myself the greatest shooter until I got this record. I'm comfortable saying it now." Ray Allen, step aside, son. It's Steph Curry.
He's not wrong.
He's not
wrong on saying that. I hadn't heard that quote yet. That's pretty funny. Look,
yeah, it's a good one.
The numbers say it, right? Like watching him says it. That dude has the greatest 3-point shot we have ever seen. It's pretty. Like it's pretty to watch too, right? Like it's like Ken Griffey Jr. swing-esque in my opinion when you look at it. And it's like, it's just like physically attractive to visualize, I guess. It sounds so weird, but you get what I'm saying.
You need a moment
like, we've never seen
it. Edit in some some soulful bedroom music for you. Your analysis?
Maybe, man. Look, basketball is beautiful here. He's
wonderful.
A shooter like we've never seen, right? Like he does it in every like sense of the word. He's a spot up shooter. He creates off of the dribble. He can shoot long distance. It's like nothing we've ever seen before. This is so easy to call him the greatest shooter of all time.
Yeah, I mean I think that goes without saying. I think he's one of the, or maybe even solely responsible for this change in attitude about the three-pointer is the big thing. And this is why I wrote a piece after it happened, actually while it was happening, wondering if it was going to be unbreakable, which that seemed to be the tone of the broadcast. And Reggie Miller was like, "Oh, there's some first grader out there who might have a chance." I don't think it's unbreakable at all. I think there might be players either coming into the league soon or already in the league that have a chance at it because of the attitude that Steph has brought to the league. You know, the first few years of his career, he wasn't taking or making an absurd amount of threes. He was making a high percentage of threes, but between the ankle injuries and the league just hadn't caught up yet, or hadn't started this whole thing yet. It wasn't as prevalent as it is now. Now he's taking like 800 3-pointers where that was unheard of before. So I even pulled up, like I because I cover the Celtics, I just out of curiosity, I said, let me just look at where Jason Tatum is. Not that I'm comparing the two at all. And mostly because you can't compare the two, because Jason Tatum is nowhere near the shooter that Curry is. And Tatum is at 677 through the first 28 games of his 5th season, and Curry was at 728. So a lead, but not like so far and away. So my whole point, Jake, is somebody like Anthony Edwards, who is a 33% three-point shooter, made more three-pointers in his rookie season than Steph Curry. And that means that there's so much volume that any good shooter in the first 3-4 years of his career that has the volume that Curry has encouraged over the course of his and brought out of the league, that guy's going to be ahead of that pace. And the only question is, how good is that player to have that longevity? Is that player going to have the Steph longevity to kind of keep that run going? But guys are shooting 800 3-pointers in a season now. There's volume that's going to be had.
That was a really good point that I hadn't thought about, because kind of when I think about this one, I do think it feels like it's going to be unattainable. Part of that is look, he's 33, he'll be 34 this year. Dude's could have like 6 to 8 more years, right? And in the twilight of his career, he's going to kind of morph into that like Jason Kidd-esque player, where Kidd went from not making threes to making threes at the end of his career because that was the only way to stay in the league. So when Steph just becomes kind of that outlet guy, kind of like Ray Allen was, right, at the end of his career, he's going to be able to make a whole lot of threes and a whole lot more threes as time goes on with him. So I think this one, again, it's probably longevity that's going to put it completely out of reach, but it's going to be tough to see someone coming close to this. But no, you're not wrong. Like, everyone's just ripping threes now, taking a lot of threes. That's the one skill, shooting, right, that you need to come into the league with, I think, which means someone's going to do it. Also, by the way, I don't know. I thought this was kind of cool, right? Because I think of the first big breakout game he had was against the Knicks back in February of 2013, his 4th year in the league. As you mentioned, he had those ankle injuries that kind of kept him from being the player that we've seen him be. So he had that big, 54-point game against the Knicks, kind of a coming out party for him. So to be able to kind of set this record in Madison Square Garden, which does have like this aura of mystique around it, kind of cool, like bookends to me on everything with him.
Yeah, it was a real special moment to have it happen at MSG. I mean, players love playing at MSG. They don't necessarily like playing for the Knicks, but they love playing in that building. And that whole crowd, just the moment, the whole thing, stopping the game and having that whole, allowing it to play out, I thought was really cool. And by the way, there was a game, the Warriors won. They beat the Knicks 105-96. Nice effort from the Knicks. I don't know what else there's to say. They were missing a bunch of guys, Obi Toppin, RJ Barrett, even Walt Frazier was in the COVID protocols there. I thought the Knicks played well enough. They have a problem that they need to figure out in Evan Fournier. They already have benched Kemba Walker. Now they've got to
They should probably put him back in the lineup in some capacity.
They probably should, and take Evan Fournier out, who was 1 of 5 in this game for 2 points and really has done nothing. But he had a very nice point at Draymond Green as Draymond went in for a dunk. He did a very good job, like pointing at him as he drove down the lane, which was fun. But yeah, Fournier is an issue in New York. Nice win for the Golden State Warriors. The Knicks are not good. The Golden State Warriors are, even though they had weird flight stuff, couldn't get into New York until the actual game. They still, with Steph, I think it helped. And I don't know what you think about this. I think it helped that it was only 2 3-pointers that Steph needed. Yeah. Get that out of the way early, get all the pomp and circumstance out, then get focused on the game. I think it was still a distraction throughout the course of the game, but they early enough where they were able to get over it.
Yeah, look, this had kind of been an issue for them, right? Like, they were kind of out of sorts. They hadn't been playing like their style of ball, of passing it around a lot. You saw a lot of ISOs, then just kind of kicking it out to Steph. Their assist numbers have been down over the past couple of games because they're just trying to get Steph this record to kind of get this over with. There's got to be, on top of it being like a cool moment for everyone, and I loved all the stuff they did. I loved having Ray Allen there. I loved having Reggie Miller call the game. They're probably so thrilled that this is like finally done.
Yeah, it's good to have it over with. And now they can just move on and focus on basketball and all of that. All right, but as I mentioned, a bunch of Knicks in the COVID protocols, a bunch of NBA players in the COVID protocols. Going to talk about that next because we had a battle of the COVID teams. Brooklyn is one of the hardest hit. That game, the Phoenix game, the overtime thriller, 2 overtime games we're going to talk about in the next segment. First, let's talk about stance. Jake, are you a socks guy? Do you put effort and thought into your socks?
Look, I'm in an office. I wear suits a lot. You're kind of wearing boring office clothes. I love stance socks because you get to really just show off your personality by wearing these things.
Yeah, I think socks make the outfit. Stance has some incredible socks, and they've partnered. I mean, if you're looking for a unique gift, today's the day that you got to order to get this stuff in time for Christmas. If you're still doing your shopping, if you want a unique gift, stocking stuffer, they've partnered with Wu-Tang Clan, Bob Marley, the Goonies, Star Wars, The Office, Major League Baseball, the NBA. That's a wide swath of partners there. Anything that you can anticipate, any taste that you can anticipate. They were founded in 2009. Stance Apparel represents a radical reinvention of socks, underwear, and active apparel. They have a whole new line. So you have shirts, joggers, and hoodies. They're incredibly comfortable, incredibly well made. It's a whole new line of active apparel. If you've liked their socks, and some people have heard us talk about this and heard me talk about it on my podcast, they come back to me like, I have the Celtic socks. I love them. Check them out. If whatever fan of want some Golden State Warrior socks, go ahead and check them out. They've got a ton of options. Go to stance.com because everything you wear should be a direct extension of who you are and how you feel. And expression, like Jake said, self-expression through socks is like awesome. And you're going to get a ton of comments. Stance believes the perfect fit matters more than fitting in. So those who feel good, do good. Go see for yourself. Register for an account at stance.com and get 15% off your first purchase. Use the promo code LOCKEDON at checkout to apply. Enjoy the color and comfort of a life less ordinary with Stance. Jake, the Brooklyn Nets went out there and played an overtime game against the Toronto Raptors, won 131-129. Let me run down the list of Brooklyn Nets in COVID protocols. James Harden, Bruce Brown, LaMarcus Aldridge, DeAndre Bembry, Javon Carter, James Johnson, Paul Millsap. That's more players, I think, than there were actually on the bench for Brooklyn.
They almost couldn't play. Kevin Durant was questionable, and you need to have 8 players to play. And if he wasn't playing in this one, they would have had 7 active guys, and they could not play a game. So this one went off by like the skin of everybody's teeth here, I think.
And he played 48 minutes. 48 minutes. The Kevin Durant minutes watch has been funny. He said, I don't know if it was before this game or before the last game, said I might go out there and play 48 just to mess with you guys. And there was an overtime game and he played 48 minutes and 11 seconds with 34 points.
And just had a cool triple-double during all of this too, right? Like just was killer down the stretch to kind of send this one to overtime. And it just, dude is a freaking cheat code at basketball, man. Like 34 points, 11 assists, 13 rebounds, 8 of 8 from the line. Like no big deal whatsoever.
Yeah, just casual out there. Obviously Patty Mills with another big game. Patty Mills, like is he the best free agent signing of this past summer?
You could see that when they made that move, right? Of like, oh, it's so annoying. They get that guy who's kind of been like quiet with San Antonio, right? He was always a good player. I always liked this guy a lot. And then you put him on a team where he can just really shine. They're good. And it's like, oh, look what he's capable of doing if they need him to do that. And then he's fine not doing that too. And it's just like the perfect player for them. And he was great in this game.
Yeah. I mean, he was great. He's been great all season. I mean, this is
7 made threes, 7 of 14 for 30 points. Like, my goodness.
Right. And back to my point before about how much volume. Patty Mills shooting 7 of 14 from 3. These guys regularly taking 12, 13, 14 3-pointers. You don't even bat an eye at this anymore. Jason Tatum took 13 the other day, and I was like, oh, okay, whatever. Like, it's insane how many 3-pointers these guys are taking.
Look, also the most insane 3-pointer in this game, though, probably Scotty Barnes with like a couple of them made in this one. The rookie was outstanding for them in this one. That move he had from the right corner of he drove, backed out, then somehow did like a side little step back, drains a 3. And it's just like, I wasn't like, I was pretty high on him coming in, right? He had like some sort of kind of enigma status around him, but like Chad Ford of Locked On really, really liked him. I don't think anyone was expecting him to hit threes like this. At one point, he grabbed an offensive rebound. Maybe it was his miss or not, then just decides to dribble it out to the 3-point line and just turns around and shoots and drains it. And it's like, oh man, if he's going to have that kind of quick release and be able to make those shots, this dude can be really special. Like no one was prepared for that.
When he went, people were like, really? Scotty Barnes here, huh? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And now here he is. He's won. Basically, he's fighting Evan Mobley for Rookie of the Year at this point. 7 of 13 in this one, 3 of 5 from 3, 12 rebounds, 5 assists. That 3 of 5 from 3 was almost 4 of 5 from 3. That half-court heave, that at the end, in
overtime, yep,
in overtime, he had a chance. He had a chance to win this game, and it only missed because he put it a little too hard. It was right off the square, and it just bounced too hard off the front. But that was, Scotty Barnes is awesome. Like Toronto is still like kind of up and down, and it's hard to figure out exactly what they're going to be long term. Still not sure what they're going to do with moving forward, who they're going to keep and who they're not going to keep. But look, you still have Fred VanVleet doing VanVleet things.
He was great in this clutch 3, right? Like to give him a chance to win potentially. This was just a fun game, man. Like just back and forth, like shot making, defense, kind of had everything you want down the stretch of a basketball game.
And then another fun game.
It's overshadowed by it's overshadowed by the COVID stuff, right?
It's overshadowed by the COVID stuff. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this Phoenix game real quick because let's finish off the basketball. And because I thought it was overshadowed by a Phoenix Portland game that should have been, I told you before the game, like, it's going to be a 40-point game. But then you realize like Portland is shorthanded and Phoenix coming off, I think they're on a back-to-back, and this was a trap game and they almost fell into it. If it wasn't for the Blazers going 6 of 11 from the line in the fourth quarter, missing 5 free throws, Phoenix, the Blazers would have won this game, but in the end, it's Chris Paul. That Chris Paul Damian Lillard battle for a while was amazing. Chris Paul comes out on top.
He made sure they had, like, Chris Paul was masterful in the fourth quarter and overtime of this one. He was so, other than the bad shot he took at the end of regulation. But anyway, he was just like, that is where he's just like a wizard with a basketball, right? That's where you refer to him as the point god of just getting a good look for Phoenix every time they went down the court. Ayton was great in this one. He was really good. I'm glad we get to see 30 from Lillard. He's been struggling.
Yeah, look, Ayton missed 9 games with an illness, a non-COVID illness. And he comes in and plays 44 minutes. He was awesome. Chris Paul is Chris Paul, and same thing, manipulates the game very, very well. Draws those frustrating fouls, but does just enough to keep his team in it. Cameron Payne hit a couple of big shots late. It's a shame for the Blazers, who have now lost 6 in a row. Were in complete disarray, that they couldn't hit those free throws down the stretch. I mean, Norm Powell had one. Who else had? I think Covington. No, that wasn't Covington. Someone else had one. Nance had one. When you're
make your free throws.
When you're the Blazers, this is what happens, and it's a shame, but oh well. All right, so Locked On Blazers has you covered. Locked On Suns, Locked On Raptors, Locked On Nets. Great shows. Warriors, Knicks, all great hosts, all great shows. All right, but you're right, Jake. Before this whole thing was overshadowed by COVID, and this is both like expected. I read Baxter Holmes' piece on ESPN saying that the league knew that after the holidays, this was going to be expected. There's going to be an uptick, but this isn't just this is an outbreak. We were supposed to talk about another game tonight. Bulls Pistons, that got postponed because of COVID. I ran down the Brooklyn COVID health and safety protocols. Giannis goes into health and safety. Dante DiVincenzo, fresh off an injury, is ready to come back. He's in health and safety. Dwight Howard, Taylor Horton Tucker. We've got dozens of guys in health and safety protocols, and the league just marches on.
Yeah, you're seeing like mini outbreaks, it feels like, with teams, which, you know what, makes sense. They're traveling a lot, they're in close quarters. This is to be expected. As you said, the league was kind of expecting it, but this is starting to be a bad look. And losing, say, Giannis is kind of one of those eye-opening things of like, you can't do that, right? Like, I kind of, so they need to start postponing games and maybe think about like, let's shut everything down. Let's take like a winter recess, right? Like, let's have winter break here. Let's shut everyone down for a week or so. Let people get healthy, get over this to come back and play. I think of this kind of, the NBA needs to look at this a little bit like their rest policy, right? The load management stuff. They hate that. They don't want you to pay for tickets to not have Giannis show up. Like, he's coming to New Orleans on Friday. People bought tickets. They're not going to be able to see him because he's out due to COVID protocols. Not the look they want, right? You want people to be able to go and see these stars, to see these players and get a complete experience. You can't give them that right now. And so where does the league kind of finally draw the line of this is what we need to do? And it feels like it's postponing games, shutting things down to a certain degree, whatever that looks like. Right.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that the NBA has to take a good hard look at is that it's slowed down its testing. It relied on vaccinations, and now they're pushing the booster shots hard. And one thing that we've learned is the vaccination does a great job at preventing a lot of, a much bigger outbreak. It doesn't prevent, it's not 100% effective. And for those people who get it, who are vaccinated, generally have lessened kind of symptoms and all that stuff, which is good, but it's not a cure. It's a vaccination. And so I think the league kind of, like a lot of people in general, relaxed and is like, we're not going to test quite as often. We're not going to do certain things. And, we're playing in full arenas, and each municipality is going to have its thing. But I can just tell from being in the arena in Boston, people are supposed to come in and show proof of vaccination or proof of a negative test. Fine. But you have proof of vaccination. That doesn't mean you don't have it. And every player that's warming up is coming off, and there's a crush of people, just like it used to be before the pandemic. People leaning over with pens and balls and autographs want to be signed, and people, the mask slips down, and players are exposed. They're out there, they're warming up. They don't have masks on, and they're right there in the crowd of people. And you don't know which one of those people is asymptomatic, vaccinated, but carrying, and then it hits a locker room. You just don't know. So I just think the NBA is, now they've gotten to a point where they do need to continue postponing games and finding a way to make it up later on. But also they need to tighten up some of these protocols in the arenas. They need to make sure that okay, fine, people want to get their autographs. I get it. Be strict about the masks when they're leaning over, and give players a mask when they're walking off the floor. So when they sign their autographs, there's a layer of protection there. So that's what the league needs to do, just to make sure that we're getting past some of this. I just feel like the cat's out of the bag now. We're in too deep, and
you got to do something.
You got to do something. You got to tighten things up. I'm not saying like shut the whole league down, but you're gonna have to tighten up the enforcement around the league and around these players and around the fans and all of that. So we'll leave it there. We're going to come back with our real or fake segment. Real or fake, now that the trade deadline, or the first of trade possibilities, is open on December 15th. So we'll get into our real or fake next. Very real is the Bet Online. Bet Online is going to have you covered for more props, odds, and lines all season long, more than ever before. They remain your number one spot for all the sports action this season. Head to the new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today. Get your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Use the promo code Locked On to get your bonus. So from basketball to football, hockey, boxing, UFC, your favorite Vegas casino games, do not wait to take advantage of all these amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. Please gamble responsibly. There is no gamble when it comes to Built Bar. Built Bar is the best tasting protein bar on the market. You are running out of time to get stocking stuffers. Get yourself some Built Bars right now and stick those in the stockings, because unlike the candy bars that you might be going for, these are low in calories, low in sugar, low net carbs, low in fat, but high in protein. But they still taste like a candy bar, and there are so many flavors. It doesn't matter who you are choosing them for, whatever flavor profile they enjoy, you can find it on built.com. Make sure you're using promo code LOCK15 to get 15% off every single order. Every single time, LOCK15 will get you 15% off at built.com. Nut allergies are fine. There are plenty of options for people who have that. If you're on a keto diet, no problem. That works there. Go ahead and grab yourself some. Dip your Built Bar into a cup of hot cocoa while you sit there, satisfied with your work, buying gifts for everybody by the fire. It's a great option there. Built.com. Use the promo code LOCK15. 15% off your order at built.com. Hi, Jake. How you feeling about trade season? Happy trade
Let's go.
season. Yeah,
This
baby.
is like, this is when the real league starts. Screw all these basketball games and awesome on court play stuff. We're gonna get some player movement potentially this year.
Yeah. By the way,
I'm only like partially being sarcastic.
no, I'm being fully serious. We're gonna we'll see. We'll talk about it. First, I want to thank everybody for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Why not make your second listen every day? Locked On Bets with your boy Q and Lee Sterling. Just told you about Bet Online. They're on a heater. They'll help you out, make some good decisions out there. So check them out where we get your podcast. All right, it's time for Real or Fake. We need like a God voice over there. Real or fake?
That was really good. That was
Like
really
that?
good. Yeah.
Real or fake on this December 15th, where the league can now kind of open up for business. A significant majority of the league now available to be traded on December 15th. Real or fake, Jake, we are entering into what's going to be a busy trade season.
So it's 84% of the league can now be traded. 84% is eligible to be traded. I love this because I think this is actually going to be I think it's real. This is going to be a busy and big trade period leading up to the NBA trade deadline. There's dominoes that just have to fall, right? Like Ben Simmons has got to get moved. They can't afford to have him out all season long without getting something else in return, even if it's not what they want. That's going to be a domino that has to fall. Something has got to happen with the Portland Trailblazers. They just cannot you can't fire your GM, your president of basketball operations, Neil Olshey, even though he might have been fired for other reasons, and not just do something, because it feels like you're about to run into a bad spot with Damian Lillard. That's going to shake things up a whole lot. You got the Kyrie Irving aspect of things. That's kind of a loose end that needs to be tied up. Then you have teams that like shouldn't be buyers, but they want to be buyers. So does that mean they overpay for people? The Pelicans, despite being last place in the Western Conference, are rumored to be buyers, right? The Kings probably want to get into the playoffs. They want to be buyers. Let's remake everything and get kind of silly with it. And I think that's what we're going to end up seeing. Like you've got Indiana that has like 2 or 3 pieces they could trade, right? Like I look at this one, I'm like, oh man, like there could be a lot of movement, I think.
Interesting. I can see your points in all of this. I'm going to say fake, that this is not going to be an active trade season, because I'm not disputing any of your points, but how many true sellers are there out there, and how many buyers are there out there? I don't know that there's going to be a lot of sellers. So there are a few, Houston can move a couple of guys. The Thunder are always open for business. Sacramento, like you said, there's, Orlando has the Pacers are very well documented. So those are teams for sure that will have the for sale sign out front on the front lawn. But when you look at the standings, and the only caveat to what I'm about to say is, if some of these standings kind of break off, like glaciers chunking off the iceberg, or icebergs chunking off the glaciers, everybody is in contention except for like 5 teams. And so there's not enough selling out there for all the buyers who might want Like the teams out there, like, yes, Portland should absolutely do something. Are they? I don't know. They're still in the play-in race for all of they've lost 6 games in a row, but they could sit there and be like, look, we just got a new coach. Dame says he wants to figure this out. Hopefully CJ can come back from this really bad collapsed lung situation. You can make a little bit of a run. There's room to make a run here. All of these teams are within striking distance. Even the Sacramento Kings are 4 games out of the 6th seed. Right? So how
I'm
much,
with you.
So, and then in the East, it's even worse. The Pacers are 8.5 games back. They're 8.5 games back, and they're third worst team in the East. So even they, theoretically, not realistically, but theoretically, they could sit there and be like, if we just figure some things out, then maybe we can go on, or maybe Karis LeVert figures some things out, and we get a couple guys back from injury, and there's a little bit more cohesion. They can make a run. So are they willing to have that fire sale that was rumored before? I think this is going to be a quiet trade, not quiet, but less than expected trade season. I think we have an incredibly insane, wild, bonkers July.
That would also be fun too. I get your point. Like, I think the Kings are buyers. I think the Portland Trailblazers are buyers. The question is, like, who are the sellers, right?
Right.
And I think that's a bit of a problem. There just aren't enough. And I think this is kind of, look, I'm sure the NBA is kind of happy about this, right? That a lot of teams want to be buyers because they feel they're in contention. And that's probably because of the play-in tournament a little bit, kind of making the playoffs and the postseason feel more reachable than ever before. So maybe that's, just a side note as like a success there. So I think that could present some problems, but we're going to see some big names move. Like, I think that's kind of going to be fun. Like, you're going to see a trade and it's like Ben Simmons goes to Sacramento and we're going to freak out on Twitter. Sure. And those moments is like a collective community are actually really fun to be a part of. So no, give me a bunch of those. Let's have some fun this year.
I got a question for you. All right. Let's say I'm right, because of course I'm always right. Okay. No.
Yes, John.
Yes, John. let's. All right. Anyway, let's just say that I think there is a prevailing attitude that the play-in tournament has increased the number of teams who feel like they're in it. So that makes a few teams at the bottom less likely to sell. Right? If making the playoffs is important, you're less inclined to sell. So it does tamp down, I think, the potential for these trades. Does the league enjoy the parity of what the play-in tournament is giving them, or because people love player movement so much, July is always the highest traffic that any basketball outlet will tell you? July is when you get the most eyeballs, the most listens, the most anything. If the NBA loves player movement and the play-in tournament kind of slows down player movement or discourages it, is the NBA happy or not happy about the play-in tournament?
That's a good question. I think you have both, right? Like, look at what happened with Orlando last year, just offloading big name players to multiple teams. Aaron Gordon to Denver, Vucevic to Chicago, while also still having a lot of teams really chase the play-in tournament. It just takes like 1 or 2 teams to kind of bottom out, like say Indiana as an example, or potentially Detroit trading a guy like Jeremy Grant and maybe some other players that they have and going full on youth movement to kind of create that, because it's just like, we're having a fire sale here in Detroit, here in Orlando, here in Indiana. And that's enough to help facilitate it when they're giving up 2-3 players and you have 2 teams do that. All of a sudden, that's a lot of player movement. And you still have teams kind of chasing that play-in tournament. The problem is those play-in tournament teams that overpay for some of those guys potentially could set their franchises back longer term. But cool, we get the rush of endorphins in the short term and everybody wins.
It's interesting. I don't know what the answer is to my own question.
Yeah, I don't know if we have like concrete data either way on that yet.
I don't think. Yeah, I wonder how that's going to work out, because the parity of it all is certainly something that makes sense. But if the trade deadline is just going to be boring, then the NBA might be like, we'd rather have an exciting trade deadline than give some 10th seed hope for, to sneak in and get destroyed by the 1 seed. Like, what does
that's
that
fair.
do? You know, so I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see how that turns out. All right, that's where we'll wrap it up. We'll leave it there. Thank you everybody for checking us out here on Wednesdays. We've been so lucky with just so few games that this is great to kind of have like more in-depth conversation. All right. Thank you for checking us out on Wednesdays. I'm John Karalis. I am host of the Locked On Celtics. Find me on Twitter at John_Karalis.
And I'm Jake Madison. You can find me on Twitter at Nola Jake, and I host the Locked On Pelicans podcast.
Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. Watch the show. Share the podcast. Tell your friends they should be listening to and watching the Locked On NBA podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network.